Want to let everyone know that we're going to be recording this session, but we've got it set up so that only the speakers will be being recorded. So you don't need to worry, if you would worry, about whether or not your image would appear on the recording. It won't unless you're spotlighted, and that won't happen unless you're one of the leaders of the sessions. Just to start out, I wanted to go ahead and to say, really glad everybody's here. If there's anyone here tonight that wasn't at the training last night, was not there, would you please let us know that in the chat right now? Asking that everybody who wasn't here last night put that in the chat so we can know. So this is part 2 of a 3-part training, Nonviolent Civil Resistance with Declare Emergency. I'm going to start by introducing myself, probably again for most of you. I'm Callie Justice, and I'll be one of the presenters tonight. Here with me, also from Declare Emergency, are Paul. And Paul, could you give a wave so everybody can see you? And Donna, also waving. Tim and Nora. Happily, tonight we're having breakout rooms, so we will have some small groups. And those 4 people are going to be leading the breakout rooms. Very grateful to them for that. Like last night, we're going to be using the chat for only particular purposes tonight. Please do not use the chat. Do not use the chat unless you are either responding to a question about some specific content that's being presented that you don't understand, or unless it's a time in the in the program when I ask you to use the chat for something. And hopefully for other things that come up, we'll have the breakout rooms and a chance to talk about things there. So to start out, getting a sense of who is here tonight, I'd like to ask that everybody does put something in the chat now, just to take a minute first and check in with yourself, just see where you are, and come up with a word or two that expresses that. So whatever those words may be, maybe something about how you're feeling in an emotional way, something physical, thoughts that are happening, but just put a few words in the chat to say something about this moment, what's happening for you. Yeah. We'll have a minute for people to do that. Last night we started with asking where people were geographically. We got your states, and this is more where you are internally. So Tam, can you read us a sampling of what you're seeing there in the chat?
Sure, yeah. I am getting a lot of anxiety, unsureness, unsettled words, stressed, climate anxious, tired, which I can relate to all those. Homework jitters.
Oh dear.
Yes.
That's so great to know. I think this is just the right training for us to be at together right now. hope it is. It's really good to know all of that.
There's one or two more that differ from that sentiment, which is a quote unquote lock me up exclamation point.
All right.
And ready to save the world. So grouping these into themes here. Still here at peace with me and you. And Vermont exclamation point. Busy but ready to be here.
All right. Thank you.
And there's one more, strong, and a chance to unwind and connect after a very busy afternoon and focus. So it's a good one maybe to end on.
Yeah. Boy, this chat thing works better than I thought it would. Thank you all so much. It's really great to hear. You know, what we're doing here is building on what we did last night and what we'll be doing and what we're moving into next. I think it's good to begin with this awareness that this work we're doing to learn to embody nonviolence, it's the work, of course, of a lifetime. Every time we try to put it into practice, though, we get a little better at it. And that's what tonight is about, is learning some specific ways to do that kind of practice, not abstraction, not ideas about it, but things to do. And so that, and we know from experience that people who've done this training have found it much easier to cope when they step into actions. When we step into actions. So just, do your best, be kind to yourself, words to live by. Yeah. So we're going to start out tonight by practicing some of the techniques that you had from one of the handouts last night. Again, if anyone wasn't here last night, please put that in the chat so we can be sure to get those handouts to you. We may get them into the chat by the end of the meeting, but we may need to send them to you afterwards, but we'll get them to you. In this first handout that we're going to start with is the one on calming and grounding. All of these activities are adapted from Just Stop Oil trainings on nonviolent civil resistance. So that's where they come from, mostly. The one we're going to start with is the body scan, which many of you may be already familiar with. To do the body scan, the first thing we want to do is get our bodies in a comfortable position. So this is a good one if you would rather be sitting in a different chair where you're not visible, but you can still hear. Please change chairs. If you'd like to be lying down, if you'd like to go get a little blanket to snuggle up with, or anything you want to do to get the body comfortable. Just taking a minute for everyone to have time to do that. And even just kind of sometimes when you're getting ready to be still, it can be helpful just to move around a little bit, turning your head, squiggling your shoulders. It kind of invites those muscles to relax a bit when we just move them a little. So if everyone hopefully is ready, we'll start the body scan with an invitation to close your eyes if that's helpful to you. For a lot of people, it helps kind of give the brain a message that it doesn't need to work so hard right this minute. Or you may want to just kind of look down, keep your gaze down so you're not distracted by things around you. And then just to help settle a little more, you can notice that you're breathing. It's not really a big deal to notice that. It's a regular thing. There's breathing going on. Just wherever you notice your breath the most right now, just kind of tune into that. You may find it to be a little bit pleasant even, just to have this one job, noticing the breath, nothing else to do right this second. And bringing that little bit of calming that may be happening with the breath. You should bring the attention to the top of the head. Some of you may find that when you focus on the top of your head, you can even kind of feel the top of your head, or at least imagine that you do. And then just bringing that focus down the head, the back of the head, the neck, like a movement of relaxation as your attention moves down the head, back of the neck, and all the muscles that can get so tight there. And then that same awareness moving down the front of the head, across the face. There's so many little muscles there in the face that we use way more than we really need to, most of us. Inviting relaxation around the eyes, the mouth, the jaw. Maybe the breath can even help carry that relaxation with a lot of ease. First down the right arm, across the shoulders, down the left arm. Into the hands and fingers. In that same relaxation moving, it may feel like warmth, may feel like just a lightening of the weight, a loosening of whatever's tight down the back, down over the chest, the belly. You can even imagine all those organs kind of clustered there in the middle of the body, like having a little bit of more space around each of them as the relaxation eases anything that's being held there. Still the breath. Down the hips, into the leg. Any little places of tension. May want to give a special, pause if you encounter any of those places, just to invite a bit more letting go. And then moving all the way down the legs into the feet. And they carry so much, the feet. They let go a little bit. even a little bit, that can help the emotions let go a bit. Everything we carry on those feet, and even into the toes. And then back again with the breath. It's what's always there when we're not asking anything else of the mind. The breath shows up. There it is. Okay. So I'm inviting you to open your eyes now, if they're not already open. And then just to kind of top this off, if you're comfortable, if you're able, you can stand. If you'd rather step off screen, you're welcome to do that. And then we're just going to do a shaking out of any tension that might remain after that relaxation activity, just to kind of give the body a little shake and let any other stress go by doing that. Let's take a minute and we'll stand up and do that if you're willing. Gently shaking out. And along with the standing and shaking, you may want to just give some gentle taps to any parts of the body. That tapping can also invite a little bit more letting go of the muscles. And then if you did stand up, returning to sitting. There are a couple of other ways of working with the breath. There's, for some people, it can be really helpful to intentionally slow the breathing, and particularly to make that out breath a bit longer than the in breath. Some people find it more relaxing just to go with the natural breath as it comes and goes. So that's something to check out for yourself and see what works better for you. Notice if your thoughts change as you stay with the breath. If your physical states change or your feelings, your emotions. Another technique that a lot of people find really valuable in general and in high stress situations as well is that technique of grounding. So that has to do, like right now, if you notice if your feet are on the floor, if you put attention into getting a sense of being grounded by that contact between the feet and the floor, between the legs and the seat, where you're in contact with where you're sitting. And then on the road, if you end up going into action on the road, that contact with the road can also provide a really good sense of grounding. Whenever I sit on the road, I have trouble. I can't really cross my legs anymore, so I put my feet out in front of me. And there's just something about the feeling of the road along the whole back of my legs that it's very grounding is the word. So you'll get a chance to notice how to use that as well. It's also recommended that if this appeals to you, you try a posture where you're folding your hands just below your navel. For many people, that sends a message to the body that it's being well protected, that a message of safety, and it's okay to relax. So this handout has a lot more of these kind of techniques that are suggested. We're not going to go through them all tonight, but that's just to kind of practice a bit together. And really the word here is practice. Those of you who have spiritual practice or meditation practice or just things you routinely do to help yourselves relax, you'll already know that it's the doing these things over and over that makes them powerful. That really literally lays down new tracks in the brain. The fires together, wires together phenomena is at work here. Neural pathways are being created when we do these practices. So, really encourage everybody to at least pick a few of these that you do regularly. Every day is best, or if you have another practice that you do, of course, then you already know the value of that and you've already got it. But you may want to fiddle around with some of these just to see if they add something to what you're already doing. Okay. So just take a minute and reflect about any intentions you want to set for yourselves about what you're going to do to work with these practices for calming and grounding. Just to be clear, I'm planning to, every day I'm going to do a body scan, or every day when I get up in the morning, I'm going to give myself some taps to tell myself it's going to be a good day, or just however you can find to translate this into something that fits with your life and makes sense to you. That's what's going to work, right? For being able to keep the practice up. And I think I said this last night, but it's so true. That moment when we're about to step in the road is not the moment to start learning how to help ourselves relax. We need to practice that before. So we'll be ready. So it's also true that we'll be using these techniques throughout the session tonight. So you can always remind yourself if you get tense again during the evening. Check back and see if one of these techniques will be helpful. We're developing these skills so that we can be powerful in nonviolent civil resistance action, because the need for those actions is so urgent, because there's something that's more important than our own comforts now. The climate catastrophe has reached the point with only 2 to 3 years where our being able to call on every bit of strength we can find is what could make the difference, what has a chance to make the difference between the amount of suffering we're already sure to have and we already have now, and an amount of suffering that's so much worse. So that's why we're doing this work. To learn to be nonviolent has practical reasons. There's all the research that shows the effectiveness of nonviolent civil resistance compared with every other approach to trying to make social change. It works, it's practical. Remaining nonviolent makes us more effective. So even if nothing else appeals to you about it, that's important, considering what's at stake. And then there are deeper reasons. There is the way that in being nonviolent, we're modeling an aspirational kind of way of being together that we hope will create, a better world. And we're also finding ways to be with ourselves and with each other now that are kinder. Moving a little bit in that direction all the time, hopefully. So 3 of the people I introduced you to at the opening, Nora and Tim and Donna, in addition to helping with the breakout rooms, are going to be sharing with you some of their experiences. We call these testimonies, particularly looking at how the nonviolence training and commitment to nonviolence has been important for them as they have moved into actions with Declare Emergency and in other places too, I think. So I'm going to ask them to go ahead and be sharing with you, starting with Nora. I didn't tell Nora she was going to be first, so maybe just give Nora a minute to know it's her turn. Thank you so much, Nora, for coming to do this sharing. Just whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Glad everyone else is here on the call to join me as well. So my name's Nora. I live in Maryland, outside of the DC area, and I did this training before our July actions so that I could participate in them. And I got arrested doing a roadblock during our July actions. When I was reflecting about what to share with respect to the training, I remembered, so I haven't done much since the pandemic. Things this year have started being more and more in person. And I honestly did not have a lot of confidence knowing like how I was going to respond and when I actually got in front of people. When there was actually, potentially somebody yelling in my face or whatever it might happen. And I had done some meditation classes before, but I was really rusty. That was years ago. And because of these trainings, I really was able to stay grounded. I remember during the action, my heart rate was increasing. It's a tense moment. But I didn't let that like spin out of control because I was able to tell myself, just focus on the breath in your belly, or like Callie said, the contact with the road. The part that really worked for me is actually feeling it with my fingertips, the texture and the heat of it. Just giving my brain, something sensory to focus on, so as not to get like swept away by the dozens of events happening around me. Because there's always like all these little things. You hear a siren and somebody yells something, and somebody's moving on the other side of the road. It's a lot of little things going on, but your job is just to be there and be calm. And I think without practicing those grounding techniques, I wouldn't have had the confidence that I did.
Thank you, Nora. You really bring that to life. Thank you. So, Tim, would you like to go next, please?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Tim. I am so thankful y'all are here because we couldn't do this without you. I remember listening to John Lewis in an interview about 5 years ago tell the story about this early days of the civil rights movement when he was 19, and some of the trainings that went on in the basements of the churches of his community. And I remember really being blown away by the struggle that he did. And just think that that was one of the first moments I realized how much there is to do that I wasn't doing to contribute positively to change. I think I was aware of things needing change for 20 years, because I read this book called Future of Life by E.O. Wilson, and it's all about the biodiversity crisis, and wanted to help in my work. But as an architect, it's hard to ask people for more money to pay for giving back to nature. And I realized a few years ago that it's the system that really is not very helpful. And so I started thinking about ways to change, and I just am so glad that I heard John Lewis, and then I heard about Declare Emergency and got involved by doing these training sessions. I watched a lot of videos of from the Declare Emergency website of like people doing the action, trying to figure out what does this look like? What am I getting myself into? I should say I've always been conflict averse. And so yeah, if there's a tense situation, my nature is just to kind of back away. So to do the nonviolent, to just sign up for the nonviolent training was a big step for me after watching a lot of videos and thinking about John Lewis's testimony years ago. Yeah, so I didn't decide to be an arrestable until the end of the second training, after a lot of my apprehension and anxiety and questions and concerns were addressed through the program of the 2 trainings. So I find them to be really helpful. And also I should mention that when we did the in-person step 3, there was a lot of reinforcing of what's been said last night and tonight. The role playing, everything that we practiced actually was very helpful during the action. So yeah, being in the base, we actually did the in-person training in a church basement in DC, and I was like, wow, this is really what that looks like, and how this works, this organizing and mobilizing and action. And then the next day I was on the road and in solidarity, like Callie's talking about. And it was powerful because people did come up to us out of the car, and they did everything that we practiced. And I think that really helped to practice, because it was almost like automatically felt, wow, this is the sensation of what we practiced coming true reinforced my role to just sit tight and be passive, but also respectful, and maintain eye contact, and sort of find that balance between listening, but not too intently, so as not to be aggressive, and all that. So it really works. I'll just leave it at that. And I think we have somebody else. Is it Donna's next?
Yeah, well, let's just take a breath and appreciate what you had to say, Tim. That was wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, take a minute to,
You're welcome.
yeah. And yeah, and then it will be Donna's turn. So
Well, gosh, I don't think I can top Nora and Tim, but the training, when I first started doing the training, I am really not a meditative kind of person. And so I thought, I don't know why we're doing all this. This just seems like, no, I just, get me out and do something. And so but when we finally came to blocking the beltway with Tim and 11 other people, boy, it really, I went, oh, I know exactly what to do. I practiced this, and and the fact that we visualized what was going to happen, that's a great tool that Callie did with us. And so all that made it just almost automatic. So, and when you're in the heat of the moment, and it was really good to have that foundation to call on, and the fact that there were 13 of us all together really made it we have felt a lot of solidarity, and despite the exciting things that were happening in our faces. So I want to thank Callie for the training. So that's it.
thank you, Donna. Yeah, it's good to hear that that these trainings can be useful for people who this is not the usual mode of things, and that's really good. Good to hear that, and it's also good to remember you all sitting on the road. Glad to know this contributed to that for you. Yeah, that was so rich. I just feel like I want to take another minute. I appreciate what we just heard. We're going to go ahead and move into some of exactly the kind of training that you all just heard about more. One of the handouts you all got last night, if you were here last night, is a handout on nonverbal ways to communicate nonviolence. And I'm going to ask Tim to copy those into the chat right now, just for your reference. This is probably also, since I'm thinking about it, a good time to ask anyone who wasn't here last night, who didn't hear me ask this earlier, to please put your name in the chat, or to let us know that in the chat, so that we can be sure that you get all the resource materials from last night. Thanks. So yeah, these nonverbal ways of communicating nonviolence. This is some of this nitty-gritty stuff that you actually do see with people, not just when you're sitting on the road, but really all the time. So yeah, our postures, our facial expressions, where we're directing our gaze, if we're looking at someone or not, our tone of voice, how we use our voices, and how we position our bodies. These are communicating all the time, and maybe even at more intensity at times of where there's feelings are high. Maybe even more, we tune in more, both to the other person and they to us, right? So I'm going to give you a guided experience that will highlight how each of these nonverbal factors can really stand out during an action. So to help you get into it, again, I'm going to ask that everybody get in a comfortable position. Move around if you feel like you need to do that. We have been sitting for a little while now. Yeah, and you can lay down if you'd rather, as long as you can hear me. And then we'll begin, as we have been with these kind of activities. If you're comfortable, to go ahead and close your eyes or lower your gaze. Bring your attention to the breath. Just to let the brain know that it doesn't need to go do anything else right now. It can just stay right where we are with this practice that we're coming to with the intentions that we bring. these intentions to develop our ability to make the strongest action we can make for the benefit of everyone, really, of life, of humanity, the planet. That's why we're doing this. So now just imagine that you're on an action where you are blocking a motorway with a team. And again, there beside the road, as we were last night, noticing the sounds, the traffic rushing by. The way the air moves when each car passes, that swoosh. Smells rising from the road, from the cars, some exhaust. Maybe you're holding a banner and sitting down. You can see who's beside you, or just have a sense someone is beside you who is your companion in this action. You can put yourself standing up if you'd rather, maybe talking to some people who've come from their cars. Get yourself in the situation. Maybe you're using some of the calming and grounding techniques. Now, imagine that you're speaking to a driver who has been stopped by your blockade, and this driver is furious. They're very worked up, and they're directing their frustration right at you. Just really imagine this person now in your mind's eye. Can observe them with a curiosity. What is up with them? What's their physical and emotional appearance? Their action, how are they moving? Their body language. The sound and the tone of their voice. See if you can do all this just observing, not reacting. Seeing this is what's there. This is what's happening. Now consider your posture. Can your hands be open and your shoulders relaxed? What happens if you allow that? How can your body language show that you are open to what this person is saying? You're not a threat to them. You're not looking for conflict, but you are also not collapsed and submissive. You're calm, positive, respectful of the other person, and also grounded in nonviolence, your purpose, and your values. Now consider your face. Be aware of your eye contact. How much is too much, so it might be intimidating or confrontational? And how much eye contact is too little, so you might seem like you're avoiding or ignoring the driver? Can your eyes be open and your gaze be soft, not a hard stare? Can you let your face just be as it is, not trying to show or display anything? Not trying to hide your feelings or pretending to be a particular way, just honest and real, calm and grounded. Now listen to your voice as you speak. Notice the following: the tone, the speed of your speech, and the volume. How might you shift any of those to let your voice be more expressive of an accepting, respectful, communicating with the other person? How is your voice different from that of the driver's? Can your voice help to keep the temperature low, or at least to not inflame the situation? Check to see if you're truly listening to the other person or just waiting for your turn to speak. And then keeping yourself right there in the road, not drifting away. You're still there with that same driver, in that same place. Help yourself get back there if you need to. Remember your purpose. Remember that this is a very angry person who you're blocking. And consider now your position. How much space between you and the driver feels like a good idea, feels respectful? What's too close, so becoming uncomfortable? Or what's too far away so that you don't have a sense of enough connection? Is it different depending on whether you're sitting or standing? Remember that your role is not to dominate or to win. It's to maintain the nonviolent container of the whole space that you and your friends have created there on the road. Not to give this already tense situation any more oxygen to heat up the fire. Now see if you can focus on your awareness that this driver is in a difficult situation. They have reasons to be upset. And you can feel kindness and compassion for them, and even feel regret that they're suffering the way they are, and still be solidly grounded in the reasons that you're there to hold all of that together. Okay. Now you can tell this driver goodbye. Take a minute to appreciate the work you just did. And take a few breaths to really let that go, and maybe even move the body around to get just back here with each other. So I hope you all could hear the different ways of using nonviolent communication that are so dramatically present, really, in intense situations, like something like roadblocking. But what we say through these different channels really makes a difference. We have a little over half an hour to go still, and I just wanted to check in to let you all know about the plans for the remainder of our time together. We're going to go over one more set of information around getting prepared for being on the road, and this was also a handout. These are the 5 stages that are involved in de-escalation. They really shouldn't be called stages because that sounds like they happen in order. These are 5 aspects, really, of de-escalation. 5 things that are involved in helping to just turn down the heat. In most actions, there will be people there who have more experience with de-escalation and will be kind of stepping in to be more involved if something really intense is happening. I'm sorry, I'm just remembering in the last road blocking action, I'm going to tell you a story now. One of the de-escalators, who was one of the more experienced people, was not sitting in the road, was standing and being available to step up and interact with people who approached the people who were blocking the beltway. Encountered someone who was there extremely upset and like pulling the banners out of people's hands and yelling and stomping up and down and really just so distraught and out of control in that. And one of the things he was very upset about was that he needed to get to work and was afraid he'd lose his job if he didn't get there. And this de-escalator offered him a phone so he could call his work and let them know, what was happening, which I just thought was such a skillful thing to do. So there will be people there who will be more experienced, who will be stepping in and doing things like that. And at the same time, all of us are de-escalating when we're doing these actions. So we all need to be aware of that and of the power of the things we do during actions. And again, I'm going to ask Tim to please put these 5 aspects of de-escalating into the chat, and we'll just run down them pretty briefly right now. These are things that we practice in more depth in the 3rd training, in the in-person training. It's good to look over this handout from time to time in the coming weeks as you're getting ready for that training, those of you who'll be there. And just good to know about them now too. Okay. So breath is an aspect of de-escalating. We need to calm ourselves internally in order to be in a good place to help another person, cool it. So the breath is always, for most people, a good way to check with that. Or you can use any of the calming and ground if breath isn't good for you, any of those. Remember the humanity of all people, right? It may be helpful just to consciously remind yourself, scary as this person looks, they're really just like me, a person. As angry as they are, I can relate to how it might feel to be in their position. Listen. This is the biggest thing. Most of us tend like we need to feel like we feel like we need to do something when there's a problem, right? So we get really busy with trying to solve the problem. In this situation, there's a limit to what we can do without changing our minds and breaking our commitment to be there. It's hard for people, and it's going to be hard, and we can't fix that. We can listen. We can listen to what they have to say about having their lives disrupted. Don't underestimate how important it is. And when we have a sense that we can, in a real way, not fakey, but in a real way, feel for what we're hearing, we can communicate that. And in any way that you find to do that, trust your own sense of what's real for you. Words like genuine and authentic. This is what we're talking about. It's not hard to empathize with somebody who is frustrated because they've gotten stopped on the highway. We've all been there. And now here's somebody who's doing that to them when they don't know, when it's not a road crew or something, abstract. But can understand how they're feeling. And then this step needs to come last, I think. Always ask for permission to explain to people why we're doing what we're doing. Always ask. Even when people are telling you or saying to you, which they will, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Don't assume that means they want you to tell them why we're doing this, right? Still ask, even when people are saying why. You can still do that step of saying in a calm way, do you want me to tell you about why? And the first roadblock I was on, a man was just like, why? And I said, do you want me to tell you why? And he's like, no, I don't want you to tell me why. He just wanted us to be gone. Understand. Always ask. And then finally, to notice if what you're doing is making things worse. Even if you don't understand why, if you see that that's happening, just step back and withdraw. Okay. So those are some tips. Just so you have them in mind, and then we'll practice them and talk about them more, as I said, in that third training. Okay. So now we are going to have a chance to be in breakout rooms, in small groups with Paul and Nora and Donna and Tim facilitating. The purpose of the breakout rooms, and please hear me when I say this, the reason we're doing these breakout rooms, the main thing we want to have happen is that each of you has some space to say what this experience has been like for you so far. Your mind is probably full of many, many questions, especially if you are seriously thinking about, which we hope you are, going to DC sometime between the 1st of October and the 10th of October to participate in the Declare Emergency Actions. You probably have so many questions. And actually, while I'm saying that, before we move into the breakout rooms, let me ask if anyone is thinking about possibly going to DC, would you please put that in the chat now if you didn't put it in the chat last night, that you're considering. And if you have decided that you are definitely going to DC sometime between the 1st and the 10th of October, please put in the chat, definitely. If you didn't already, let us know that last night. I'm just going to give a second for people to do that now. If anybody hasn't had time, please wave your hand around, and Tim, would you let me know? So we will move into the breakout rooms to give you all the space, because you've taken in so much, just to say anything you have to say about what this has been like so far. And we'll do that listening. We'll have 15 minutes in the breakout rooms. I wish it was more. They want us to stop on time and keep that commitment to you. Your breakout room facilitators are going to help each of you keep your time to a length that'll leave time for everyone else to have space. So when they let you know that your time is just about up, please understand it's not because they don't want to hear from you some more, it's because we want to hear from everyone. Okay. So I don't know how many people will be in each breakout room, but when you see how many people are there, you'll have a sense of how much time each person can take and leave time for everyone. Okay, so Donna, would you please set the breakout rooms for 15 minutes? Okay. Welcome back. I hope everybody got some space to share and be heard. Just before we check out, wanted to let you all know I posted in the chat the link for the Declare Emergency website in case anybody needs that. That's the place to go for making donations and for finding out about upcoming online presentations. And Paul, did you want to put something in the chat as well, a link?
Yes, I'm putting in the chat a form. There it goes, right there. It's an RSVP form for anyone who is planning on coming and you haven't filled this out. You should fill it out. It just so we can plan. It says when you're going to be here, do you need housing, all that kind of thing. And what we can do really depends on how many people are here on each day. And we can't figure out exactly what we're going to do until we get this filled out. So the form is in the chat. Please fill it out if you're gonna be here. There's no link. Uh-oh. Okay.
The form will be in the chat.
It will be right now.
momentarily.
Okay, take your time, and I'll just say on top of what Paul just said, yeah, this is like, you know, classic herding cats situation we're in right now, y'all. So the sooner you can let us know your plans, it'll just make, you can't imagine how big a difference it makes for us being able to make plans here. So, and also the same form is the one where if you live in the DC area, you can let us know if you can help out with either housing or transportation, or if you want to help out in some other way. If you're in the DC area, this is, I guess, mainly housing and transportation, the place to put that on that form as well. Great. Have we got it there now, y'all?
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay, great. Well, this was a lot. I just want to say big thank yous before we close. First of all, just thank yous to everyone for everything that brings you here. To those who helped with doing the presentation. You know, this is deep work and it's ongoing work, and the online training is good. We can do a lot, and it enables a lot of people to get the training. The in-person training takes what we've been doing here and just really ramps it up. So I hope as many of you as can be there for those trainings. There will be one on September 30th, which is the evening before the actions begin on October 1st. And we're going to schedule at least one other in-person training during that time period between October 1st and the 10th, and possibly two, depending again on when people come and how many people come. We'll set those up. And so yeah, I just really hope you all can get there. That's, as I think it was mentioned already, but that's where we get to do role plays and really role plays, you know, or the chance to put all this into practice. We've been imagining putting it into practice, but when you do the role plays, you know, it's, I think it was Tim that was saying that, you know, it starts to just get even more real. And then we have that to carry into the road or into whatever actions we're doing that week, the road blocking or just part of it. But so, yeah, so really encouraging people to be there for the in-person. And if you can't be there this time for the in-person, then there'll be another chance before too long. And please continue working with your handouts so that you'll be building these skills for when you are able to come and join an action and be a part of part 3 of the trainings. Yeah, so one thing I wanted to mention here at the end is people are often feeling very challenged at going through these trainings and sometimes even a bit daunted at the magnitude of what we're looking at. And what I'd like to suggest is for those of you who would like to, it's not to be an anxiety producing homework assignment, but something you could do and then bring with you when you come to the in-person training, whenever that is to reflect on what gives you strength to do this work or to think about doing this work of stepping into nonviolent civil resistance. So what's your motivation? And just really think deeply about that. And then find something that symbolizes it, that represents it. It may be a picture or a song or a poem or you know, a memory, but pick one thing that just clearly represents what gives you the strength to do this work. And if you're coming to an in-person training, please bring it to share with others. And until then, please keep it someplace where anytime you see it, you'll remember what it's about, what it means to you. This work calls for so much strength. Knowing what we know every day about what's happening and what it means requires so much strength. The skills that we're developing here as we do this work to become more effective, which was a word that concerned a lot of people. Are we going to be effective? To become more effective nonviolent civil resistors. This work helps us to get better at both observing our own internal states and also at observing the behavior of others. Good skills for life. And they teach us to respond to the things that we observe, both internally and externally, in ways that move ourselves and others into more nonviolent space. Skills, like we said, take practice. And when we meet in person for section 3, we'll practice these skills some more with the role plays. So thank you. Let's just take a minute here before we say goodbye, just for anyone who wants to go ahead and put something in the chat to give us some feedback. Take as much time as you want to do that. And we'll go ahead and release everyone else with so much gratitude